A friend of mine from the London group that we've been going to for quite a while now told me that when she first came to the group a few years ago, she just heard everybody talking about the longing, I have such longing. Oh, I don't know where my longing has gone. And people were keeping talking about this longing, and she was asking herself, what is this longing that they're talking about? Is it some sort of commodity that you either have or you don't? So I kind of remembered this as I was sort of putting my thoughts together towards this talk today, and maybe this is the keynote of what I'd like to talk about, this commodity, the longing. In the biographies of Abu Sa'id ibn Abil Khair, one of the great Persian Sufi teachers of the 11th century, the following story is told. One day, when Abu Sa'id was traveling with two companions in the province of Khurasan, this is in northeast Iran, they wanted to pay a visit to the tomb of one of the venerable masters. The tomb was surrounded by fields. As they approached, they noticed from a distance an old peasant who was sowing millet seeds and at the same time making strange gestures with his body and uttering loud cries. His strange behavior attracted their attention. And when they came nearer, they asked him what was the cause of these loud cries. This is what he told them. I have been thinking, he said, if God, when he created the world, had created no creatures in it, and if he then had filled it full with millet from east to west and from earth to heaven, and if then he had created one bird and bidden it eat 1 grain of this millet every 1,000 years, and if, after that, he had created a man and had kindled in his heart this mysterious longing, and had told him that he would never win to his goal until this bird left not a single millet seed in the whole world, and that he would continue until then in this burning pain of love. I have been thinking it would still be a thing soon ended. This is an old story about an ancient love affair. It has reached us as it has reached Abu Sa'id and his companions from the spaces beyond, from time before time, from territories and lands which may not exist anymore, or may have changed so much that they have become unfamiliar, unrecognizable to our minds, where people had spoken in another language, strange, mysterious, unfamiliar. And yet, as we listen, something in us is evoked. Something in us understands. Something in us knows. And something in us remembers. But who knows? Who remembers? And what is remembered? What is the knowledge that is conveyed so mysteriously through this mind-boggling paradox of a parable? What are the memories evoked? It is the lover in us who knows and remembers. It is the lover in us in whom the primordial intimacy with the beloved is evoked. This intimacy with which the beloved held us all in its all-encompassing being before time was, before creation had been created. It all started with a union. The lover remembers and becomes awakened to his or her unfulfilled existence in this world of transient manifestations and forms. A crescent which desires to become a full moon. A shore that longs to be embraced by the ocean. An ocean that craves to be one with the shore. A mountain which longs to unite with its reflection in the still dark lake in a moonlit night. Often in this earthly manifestation, this seems to be an unrequited love. And so it seems because of the veils with which we are surrounded. But so it often has to be, because something in us must learn to wait. Like the old Persian peasant, to wait and wait and wait until we are ready for the showers of love showered upon us by the beloved. Until then we have to wait and learn to contain our longing, to be for a long, long time, sometimes it feels forever, a question without an answer, a call without an echo, just a reaching out. But for what? For what seems to be so ephemeral, so unattainable, beyond reach, and yet we wait. And is it not, from our limited perception, an unrequited love? Do not the old Sufi poems, mostly in Persian, Urdu and Turkish, some translated by Guruji for Mrs. Tweedy when her heart was burning without consolation, and which she later recorded in her book Daughter of Fire, do not these old, strangely familiar poems warn? Stay away from the lane of love. This is a lonely lane, and it is a one-way road. For him who walks in, there is no way back. The lane of love is not a thoroughfare. Once entered, you cannot pass through. Now what can I do? I am helpless. Page 266. And yet, this old peasant in a remote village in the northeastern regions of Iran, 9 centuries ago, drunk with the wine of love, enraptured, unable to contain his agony and passion, sows his millet seeds and proclaims with certitude, I have been thinking it would still be a thing soon ended. This is the message of this path, my friends. Wait, endure, persevere, contain the longing and wait. Sow your millet seeds. At times get carried away by your longing, by your passion, by your human frailty, and wait. And somehow in the waiting, know it would still be a thing soon ended. One day, in a flash, instantaneously, in the twinkling of the eye, the tables will turn, and in a state of timeless bliss, spaceless merging, in a state of total absorption in that in which all things cease, the lover and the beloved will embrace again. Now when all things cease, this is a state which is known in the Sufi tradition as fana, cessation, annihilation. But it has its polar opposite. Then you shall subsist in the beloved. And this state of timeless subsistence in the beloved is known in the Sufi tradition as baqa. In this embrace, when one returns to the state one was before one was, I'm quoting, one has gone a full circle. One has realized, while in the human body, one's ultimate fulfillment, and one knows lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They are in each other all along. Now, this is so because it's not really a one-way traffic. It only seems to be like that. What we cannot see from our perspective, from where we stand, that the beloved is also a lover, that we too are the beloved, that someone that loves us. And in fact, nothing of this awakening and longing and holding could have happened if we were not loved at first. And the beloved, which is also the lover, wants us in the same way as we want him. And so I would like to read to you a quotation now from a Sufi who lived also in these regions of northeastern Iran. His name was Najmuddin Kubra, and he lived at the beginning of the 13th century. And here is what he says. There are lights which ascend and lights which descend. The ascending lights are the lights of the heart. The descending lights are those of the throne, the heavenly throne. Creatural being is the veil between the throne and the heart. When this veil is rent and the door to the throne opens in the heart, like springs toward like. Light rises toward light, and light comes down upon light. And it is light upon light. These last words are from the Quran. It is light upon light. Each time the heart sighs for the throne sighs for the heart, so that they come to meet. Each precious stone which is in you brings you a mystical state or a vision in heaven corresponding to it, whether it be the fire of ardent desire, of delight, or of love. Each time a light rises up from you, a light comes down towards you, and each time a flame rises from you, a corresponding flame comes down towards you. If the energies are equal, they meet halfway. But when the substance of light has grown in you, then this becomes a whole in relation to what is of the same nature in heaven. Then it is the substance of light in heaven which yearns for you and is attracted by your light, and it descends towards you. And this is the secret of the mystical journey. Well, the waiting has to be, and the frustration, and the states of confusion and bewilderment, doubts and disappointments, because of the veils which surround our temporal existence. And these are the veils of perception, and they are bound up with our ego consciousness, with our little self. We say veils of perception, but these are rather the veils of illusion, which separate us from reality, from truth, from the real beloved. These veils are our minds, our characters, our temperaments, our behavioral patterns, our thought formations, our genetic codes, our inherent desire to please and conform to the demands and expectations of our parents, teachers, mates, partners, children, bosses, or conversely, our need to rebel and defile of them. Now, everything in nature and in society acts against the awakening of the real love in us. Even our astrological constellations work against it. Even our loftiest fantasies and even our mystical experiences, when we identify with them, from our ego consciousness. All these are the veils of perception, the maya of our temporal existence, the seductive illusions that may sometimes come from the realms of the beauty and power of the beloved. These manifestations of the divine attributes, as they are known in the Sufi tradition, Jamal and Jalal, to use the traditional names for them, even these can become veils. So even the experiences emanating from the power and beauty of the beloved can become veils if we get caught in them. And they too may separate between us and the ocean of total bounty. I have placed 100,000 veils of light and 100,000 veils of darkness between me and my servant, says Allah in a well-attested tradition. And yet he also says, and you have heard Llewellyn quoting it before from the Quran, I am nearer to you than your jugular vein. Now try to figure that out. And so the waiting has to be. Nature, society, and especially the strange mechanism of our minds, which need an ego consciousness as the center of perception. All these have taken a long time to weave and fabricate these veils and to create our personalities, our circumstances, our concepts, our particular attachments. And so it takes a long time for them to dissolve, to be undone. Guruji, quoting and translating for Mrs. Tweedy one of these old Persian poems, says, although it is a birthright for every human being to know how to love, we don't know how to do it, because there is the personality, the little self, which doesn't want to go. Until it goes, real love is impossible. For love is the negation of the self. The Guru is well aware of the difficulties of the path, and in his feet I take refuge. I have to cross the river, and the night is dark and stormy. I can see people on both banks of the river. They seem safe enough. Only I, in the midst of the stream, am tossed about helplessly. So the waiting has to be. And then I say to myself, I shall wait. I shall accept the longing with no fulfillment. I shall persevere. I shall become like a dead body in the hands of the beloved, as the Sufis say. But what then is this hot wind, this uncontrollable wind, which gushes through my loins and through my blood vessels? You see, there is an energy which builds up through this waiting. What is this energy that keeps me awake at night, that makes my heart beat like mad, that makes it difficult for me to stand firm on my feet and makes the ground shake under me, that shakes me to my roots, that demands of me to extend and stretch myself to such dimensions in order to contain all that, that I almost blow up and scatter into little pieces. And what is this wild cry which bursts from my innermost? Because once we start going into our depths, there is a lonely, hungry wolf there, or a lonely, hungry lioness. And they cry, they howl, they wail. It's a desperate wailing which breaks open all my containers. And how can I contain my longing in silence when this hot wind is blowing in my veins? Rumi says somewhere in one of his poems, this is not a wind which goes through our veins, it is fire. And yet I know this wild wind is liberating me from my inertia, from my resistances to wake up, and it too has to be tolerated. Now all this is a very old story, very well known in the taverns of the dervishes, those who have emptied themselves from themselves. It has been told and retold, sung and resung so many times. Oh yes, we know these wise men say, wise with the wisdom of experience and intuition. We know. We too have been there before. We are all madmen and madwomen on the edge of life, and yet in the midst of it, living our life in the world as agile and alert, as open-eyed as tightrope walkers, on tiptoes, while at the same time spinning within, burning inside, and waning like a candle consumed by this fire. Come, they say, sit with us, stay with us. Sometimes the inner burning is so strong, it's too much to bear alone. We'll tell you the tale of the moth, another of these old repeated stories which have been told for millennia in the circles of true lovers. Moth gathered in a fluttering throng one night to learn the truth about the candle's light. And they decided that one of them should go to gather news of this elusive glow. One flew till in the distance he discerned a palace window where a candle burnt, and went no nearer. Back again he flew to tell the others what he thought he knew. The mentor of the moth dismissed his claim, remarking, "He knows nothing of the flame." A moth more eager than the one before set out and passed beyond the palace door. He hovered in the aura of the fire, a trembling blare of timorous desire, then headed back to say how far he'd been and how much he had undergone and seen. The mentor said, "You do not bear the signs of one who'd fathomed how the candle shines. Another moth flew out. His dizzy flight turned to an ardent wooing of the light. He dipped and soared, and in his frenzied trance both self and fire were mingled by his dance. The flame engulfed his wingtips, body, head, and when the mentor saw that sudden blaze, the moth's form lost within the glowing rays, he said, He knows the truth we seek, that hidden truth of which we cannot speak. This is from Attar's The Conference of the Birds. So sometimes it is like that, this wild wind and the fire which consumes. But sometimes you come and join our company, the dervishes say, and your wings are clipped. You wish to join our company because the fire in your loins has turned to ashes. Your head is low, you are choked in the throat, your chest heaves painfully, your stomach twists, and there is this strange quivering in your intestines. You are alone, walking in a vast, dry desert. No inspiration, no desires, no longing, let alone ecstasy or love. Nothing. Only this emptiness and this anxiety. Where have all my assets gone? Where has the fire which was blowing through me hidden itself? Who am I? What do I want? For what? For whom do I care? For nothing. For no one. I don't even care enough to run away. I simply feel defeated, deflated, shattered, a non-entity. Talking about dreams, a friend of mine just recently had this dream. She was walking in this vast desert. And then all of a sudden, there was a baby there. And she was saying, baby, but how am I going to feed this baby? There's nothing. And then lo and behold, she saw a bottle, a milk bottle. And she took the bottle and she fed the baby. And then the baby was revived and kicked the bottle, and the bottle fell. And she said, what now? The bottle is polluted. And then she said, never mind, I'll just clean it. I have the bottle. So we have to go through these deserts and hope for the best. Anyway, to go back to this description of depression on the journey, is this just the other face of a deep-seated anxiety, a deep depression? In this state, whom can I trust? What's going to become of me? And no promises. I used to read books, to go to the theater, enjoy making love, dressing up, the company of friends, good food, listening to music, a friendly conversation, a ball game with my child, and now nothing. An inner wilderness, confusion, fatigue, emptiness, and boredom. Yes, good friend, the dervishes, sitting on the threshold of the tavern, sipping what seems to be wine because it's red, but it's really tea, will say, this too is an old familiar story. We know this one very well. Come, sit with us. Cry your heart out. Be a beggar like us, with nothing to offer except your pain, your emptiness, your confusion, your fears, your poverty. If you wish to talk, talk If you wish to stay still, stay still. We know, because we too have been there before. You've lived so long in the deserts of illusion. You know now only the despair of deprivation. Perhaps you've traveled in breathtaking landscapes before. Perhaps you've known pleasure and beauty. Perhaps you thought you were sheltered by friends and family. Perhaps you imagined you were secured by a good profession, a solid income, a respectable home, substantial possessions. But we know, once you have been stung by the poisonous snake of the inner awakening of your true self, once you've smelled the whiff of the scent of the real beloved, once you have been ever so gently touched by the feather floating down from the realm of beauty, once you have touched the hem of the garment of the beloved, nothing can satisfy you anymore. Everything simply dies away. It is this or nothing. How can you compromise? How? It seems there is not any choice in the matter, and yet somehow there is. Something in you knows a real jewel from a fake one, and you will not bargain for a look-alike. For you, who have come to us with broken wings and a heart filled with mystery and bewilderment, we have a special old story in store. We'll tell you the story of the Arab in Persia. Through Persia once an Arab took his way, where foreign customs filled him with dismay. He met a group of dervishes who had renounced the world and seemed to him quite mad. But don't be fooled. If they seem filthy thieves, they are far purer than the world believes. And though in drunkenness they seem to sink, the ecstasy they know is not from drink. The Arab saw these men. Without a sound, he fainted and lay stretched out on the ground. They quickly splashed his face and bring him round, and then cried, "Enter, no one, enter here." And in he went, though torn by doubt and fear. They made him drunk, he lost himself, and soon his mind had foundered in a vacant swoon. His gold, his jewels, his very livelihood were stolen there and disappeared for good. The dervish gave him more to drink, and then they pushed him naked out of door again. Dry-lipped and poor, the man was forced to roam, a naked beggar, till he reached his home. And there the Arab said, "But what's gone wrong? Where's your wealth? Where have you been so long? Your gold and silver's gone. What can you do? These Persian expeditions ruined you. Did thieves attack you? You don't say a word. You seem so different. Tell us what occurred." He said, "I went as usual, full of pride, then saw a dervish by the highway's side. But then, what happened next, I can't be sure. My gold and silver went, and now I am poor." They said, "Describe this man who blocked your way." He said, "I have. There's nothing more to say." His mind was still elsewhere, and all he heard seemed idle chatter, empty and absurd. Enter the way, or seek some other goal, but do so to the utmost of your soul. Risk all, and as a naked beggar roam, if you would hear that enter call you home. This too is from the Conference of the Bird. I wonder if it sounds familiar. I mean, to me, this is the Daughter of Fire in a nutshell, the whole story. So we are stung by the poisonous snake, and we don't even kill it. We seek to be bitten again. Something in us knows intuitively, and the Sufi poets have said it times and times again, this poison is both the sickness and the cure, the executioner and the physician. I read to you a couple of lines from Sadi, a 13th century poet from Shiraz, who puts it in this way: I shall drink the poison with sweetness, because the sweetness is from him. Willingly I shall endure it, because this treatment is from him. It comes from a poem which rhymes, all the ending lines are from him, from him, from him. And that's the way Persian poems are. It's always the same rhyme going on and on and on. And in this case, I'll just say it in Persian because it has a special ring. Azust, from him, Azust, and you have it like an echo throughout the poem. So it is this totality, this non-compromising commitment which our higher self demands of us, which overwhelms us at the beginning when we understand that either we mean business or it's best to forget about the whole thing. We are not accustomed to this in our culture. We are always told to compromise somehow with so-called reality or circumstances or conditions. You can't have everything, we are told by our cultural mentors. And here, even at the threshold, just at the beginning of this strange reality, even at the threshold of these inaccessible places, we know that this is a total adventure for once. Gambling away illusions for the essence. This has always been a search for the real pearl, the essence of essence, the secret of secrets. Except that the road is very thorny, and we are comfortable in our compromised reality, in our illusory security, and indeed, why not? Except that when this inner hunger surfaces up, this inner deprivation of real nourishment, and when it is coupled with the remembered link from immemorial times, I'd like to repeat it. It's not enough to feel deprived and undernourished. It has to be somehow coupled with the deepest remembrance of the link from immemorial times. Then this hunger transforms into a tremendous longing, this wretched longing which throws us both into great ecstatic moments, elated revelations, big dreams, intimations of true love, and also into the abyss of loneliness, confusion, and despair. And Sufi manuals from the 10th century, and some Sufi writers even before them, have known this, have experienced this, and through their experiences they have mapped very clearly this bumpy terrain that the seeker has to cross in his and her quest for the essence. They have mapped the stations on the path And these are always inner stations, states of the psyche. That's why it's such a psychological path. States of the conscious ego which it has to go through in order to grow and shed the layers, the skins, the veils, separating it from the essence. When I use the word veil, this also comes from the tradition. We can say complexes, conditionings. This is in our modern language. Veil is the image of the old tradition. So all these veils, the skins, have to be shed off in order to come to the inner kernel of reality. But when one acquires the language, and I don't necessarily mean the literal language, namely Arabic or Persian, when one acquires the right language of mind to explore these manuals with, one realizes with what clarity, with what precision, in fact, with what consolation these old masters have mapped the stations on the path for their disciples. It is difficult to us to read these in the same way, not only because so few of us have access to Arabic or Persian or Urdu or Turkish, but because these masters developed a special terminology, a scientific language. They very deliberately did so. And Kushairi, for example, an 11th century teacher who composed a book named The Epistle, a compilation in Arabic which became a textbook for generations of Sufis in different circles, in different places, with different teachers. He, Kushairi, tells us quite clearly why the early masters have developed this very specific terminology, so that what is referred to could be hinted at, alluded at, in such a way that will not be understood, or will be understood only by the adepts. And the adepts are those who have tasted already the experiences. This terminology has been something with which Orthodox religious teachers have always condemned ferociously during many centuries. In any case, these manuals give a kind of mapping of the inner process of tribulations and oscillations, of intense emotional states. And these oscillating states have always been the same in every culture and in every place, no matter the time, no matter the situation, no matter the language. He who has experienced these tremendous fluctuations between elation and depression in the face, in the conscious face of the quest for the essential, the pure, that which is not contaminated by illusion, he or she will know. The Sufi manuals name the states of elation and ecstasy bast, which literally means expansion. And they names the states of depression, confusion, dark night of the soul, qabd, which literally means contraction. And this is like the breath. This is really a law of nature. Everything has to go through this expansion and contraction. Nothing can work in any other way. So we may not know the language, but we know the taste of the experiences. And in the Sufi tradition, the taste is the real teacher. I read to you a couple of quotations about qabd and bast from the tradition. This is from an Egyptian Sufi from the 13th century, Ibn Attallah. Sometimes he makes you learn in the night of contraction what you have not learned in the radiance of the day of expansion. You do not know which of them is nearer to you in benefit. And a second one. He expanded you so as not to keep you in contraction. He contracted you so as not to keep you in expansion. And He took you out of both so that you not belong to anything apart from Him. In The Daughter of Fire, which is a modern document which describes the desperate determination of the inner lover to allow the divine lover to embrace it in an embrace of utter union, this state of the bottomless, dark, bottomless pit of our existence is described in these ways. I'm reading from Mrs. Tweedy's diary, Daughter of Fire, where she describes the experience of contraction. Even though she doesn't use this word, she may not even have known that such a word or term existed.
So much sorrow in me that there is no speech left to express it. Have no desire to speak to him. Go there in the morning and sit. About 10 a.m. he sends me home. I am sort of empty. Everything seems to be dead. No desires are left. Only one. Only this terrible, deadly longing. But there seems to be no hope. It is a sort of peace made of darkness.
And here, alongside Mrs. Tweedy's documentations, here are a couple of quotations from Rumi. Our desert has no bounds. Our hearts and souls know no peace. World within world have been engraved by images and features. Which of these images is ours? What are our features? If you see on the road a severed head mindlessly rolling towards our terrain, ask of it. Ask of it the secrets of our heart, for it you will learn the mystery of our depths. What can I say? What can I know? This story is beyond our boundaries and strengths. How can I keep silent when moment by moment our anguish becomes more anguished? Leave this story. Don't question us, for our tale is a tale of total brokenness. In another poem he says, yesterday I bore my breast to a star. I showed it its wounds. I said, give news of me to the beloved whose drink is blood. I rocked to and fro that this child, my heart, might become quiet. A child for the sleep when one rocks its cradle. To this baby heart of us give milk. Relieve us from its crying, O you who every moment helps 100 helpless hearts like mine. From ever, from always to the end of days, the heart's home has been the city of union. How long will you keep this lonely heart in exile? Just shows how these people whom we take as our guides and teachers had to go through the waiting, through the anguish. And this is the mystery of the divine alchemist who processes blood to become milk. Now I've quoted from Rumi. He touches our hearts and souls with his anguished lament, because he sings of us, and he sings for us. His poetry touches us with its uncompromising sincerity, its nakedness, with its total abandonment, total freedom to use anything, no matter how trifle or repulsive or unconventional, as materials for teaching the ways of the heart on the path to the divine lover beloved. And of course, last but not least, it touches us with its humor, which is always an overflow from a divine spark. His poetry is a link between us here, in our personal history, in our own yearning and deprivation, our own cultural conditionings and barriers, and the long-trodden tradition, the tradition of the religion of love. This is how he calls it, and other Sufi poets, the religion of love. A tradition so ancient that its beginning is to be found nowhere in human conscious records. This tradition, in essence, and we are talking about the essence, is timeless and spaceless, yet it unfolds and always has, and so it has to be. It unfolds in time and in space and in us. Rumi himself, like many of us time and time again, was uprooted from his native soil in Balkh, the capital of one of the northeastern provinces in the Muslim empire where so many of the great Sufi teachers have come from. As a child, he emigrated with his family to Anatolia, that part of the world which nowadays we call Turkey. In his terms, this was the West. Rumi's family settled in the central part of Anatolia. This is the early part of the 13th century, and Anatolia has only a few generations before then been conquered by the Seljuks, a Turkish Muslim dynasty from the old Byzantine Empire. So it's a time of great change. They settle in Konya, the ancient biblical Iconium, which has become the capital of the Seljuk Sultanate. And in many ways, these newcomers from the East were pioneers in these Western territories newly acquired to Islam. In the East, which they have left behind, a catastrophe was impending. Fearsome hordes of Mongols from the steppes of Mongolia were about to sweep through the cultivated lands of Central Asia, mercilessly massacre whole communities, enslave and rape women and children, destroy the sophisticated cultural centers of Persia and Iraq, smash and destroy the ancient irrigation system in these lands that to this very day hasn't been resurrected after that, which was the lifeline for so many people, animals, and vegetation. These Mongols, who were eventually, in the year 1258, barely 40 years after Rumi's family had left the East, they were to eliminate forever the Islamic Caliphate from its capital, Baghdad. Tremendous change. It was as if Rumi's father had foreseen these coming catastrophes. He seemingly took his family for the pilgrimage to Mecca, but they ended up in a totally new territory, Rum. This is the name for Anatolia, as the Muslim inhabitants called it. Therefore, his name is Rumi, the one from Rum. Here the young Jalaluddin grew, adjusting to a new culture, a new environment, a culture which is a hybrid of so many ancient traditions, Greek, Byzantine, Persian, Turkish, Arab, in a land which for millennia had been the center of ancient cults and mysteries, Hellenic, Gnostic, Christian, a territory where the land itself, the soil, the caves, speaks in images and parables of great heroic deeds of the spirit. In this alchemical laboratory, Jalaluddin processed his own psychic material, sifted and distilled his inimitable gift for words, with music, with poetry, with love. And thus, ever since, his poetry has been a source of inspiration and consolation for many generations of those who travel to the beloved, Muslims and non-Muslims. His poetry carries with it the flavor of freedom and the vast steppes of Central Asia, the courage to leave everything behind, as Abraham did millennia before, and follow the inner call, which is the call to fulfill one's inner destination. It carries with it the commitment to follow earnestly, passionately, the path of tribulation and vicissitudes of the heart, to follow it to the very end, all the time changing, becoming more and more fluid, more and more like water, colorless and featureless, with total freedom from any judgmental attitude towards anyone or anything, and yet demanding the highest morals, the highest ethics, knowing well that if you deceive, there is no one else really to deceive but your higher self. A devout Muslim himself, he includes everyone who has a sincere heart in the religion of love. Pagans, Christians, Jews, Hindus, heretics. If the ultimate state is to become featureless and colorless, what difference does label make? His poetry speaks not of the form, but of the essence, the very source of all forms of being, and of being beyond form. The purity of this water of life, ever flowing from the source of all being, is manifested in the teacher. So it was for Rumi. He could not get there without his love to Shams, this dervish, this wandering dervish, which one day appeared in the bazaar, and Rumi, like this Arab in the story of Attar, Rumi just saw him and fainted. And from that time on, changed completely. The whole dynamic of his work, his creativity changed. And this purity that comes from the source is manifested in the teacher. The archetypal teacher in the Sufi tradition is Khidr, sometimes referred to as the green man. Khidr in Arabic means greenness. He is this mysterious figure who Moses meets miraculously where the two seas meet, a place where space and time meet the spaceless and the timeless. This too is an old story, another of these old stories. And this one, the Quran tells. This mysterious figure is, according to Allah's words in the Quran, a servant of ours who is carrying the divine knowledge, the true esoteric tradition. Khidr, who is as ancient a figure as the Babylonian myths on Gilgamesh and his quest for eternal life, is always described as residing in the mouths of rivers as living in the mouth of the river of eternal life. Whoever and whatever touches this water revives. And the Quran tells about this dead fish which was cooked for Moses' dinner, which miraculously found its way into the sea where the teacher was standing, and lo and behold, swam away. The teacher is thus the reviver of dead souls. It is he who breathes new spirit into the dead branches after a long and stormy winter. This is the archetypal symbol of the teacher on earth. The resurrection of our spirits is here, not in the hereafter. The earthly teacher here among us lives the essence, breathes the essence, and reflects the essence. Tweedy used to say, we don't teach anything. Speak, we say things, you register, you write down, you forget. The real teaching goes through reflection. The hearts become like mirrors, reflecting the true esoteric knowledge. This is all the teacher really does. Without him or her, our souls can very rarely survive the hardships of the journey. His or her being emanates the breath of the beloved, which revives our spirits and bodies when we wither in the winter of our deprivation. A holy man is spiritually free, says Rumi, and totally open to God. A mystic says little, but inside is full of mysteries and crowded with voices. That's his intuition. Whoever is served the cup keeps quiet. The holy man laughs softly and prays aloud. May God cause you to change your life in the way you know you should. The prayer of such a sheikh is different from other prayers. He has so completely dissolved. His ego nothinged himself, that what he says is like God talking to God. How could such a prayer not be granted? Guruji, quoted in The Daughter of Fire, also addresses Jalaluddin Rumi and mentions him in this passage. This is now from The Daughter of Fire. Jalaluddin Rumi has written, I remain with those saints who are faithful and obedient. If you want to realize me, go to those saints and realize me through their hearts. From the wood of a tree, a chair is made. It is the carpenter who is to make a chair, to polish it and make it beautiful and useful an object. The wood in itself is worthless. From iron, a sword is made. Iron in itself is worthless. If I am what I am, if people admire me and respect me, it is all due to my Guru, my revered Guru, Shamsi Tabriz. It is due to the grace of the saint if you realize God. The soul is in the body from head to foot. When one realizes the self, the body becomes quite stiff. So if the body is stiff, it is all soul. So go to those saints whose body is the body of the realized souls. Christ was walking along, and it was raining heavily. A fox ran across the road and went into his den. "My lord," said Christ, "even a fox has such a dry home, and I have none." In one moment a golden palace appeared, and a voice said, "Go and live there if you want to." But Christ understood and said that he was content to do only the will of God. Golden palace, adds Guruji in this quotation, means also a purified personality. Worries purify and cleanse if there is a loving devotion. I'd like to end with another few lines from Rumi. Consoling lines. The cloud weeps, and then the garden sprouts. The baby cries, and the mother's milk flows. The nurse of creation has said, "Let them cry a lot." This is Rumi. He takes all his images from reality. The little children in the houses of Sufis, they cry. The nurses say, "Let them cry, it's good for them." So the nurse of creation says, "Let them cry a lot." This rain weeping and sun burning twins together to make us grow. Keep your intelligence white hot and your grief glistening, so your life will stay fresh. Cry easily, like a little child. Let body needs dwindle and soul decisions increase. He was such a gentle teacher. Didn't give very harsh exercises. Just said, let body needs dwindle gradually and soul decisions increase. Diminish what you give your physical self. Your spiritual eye will begin to open when the body empties and stays empty. God fills it then with musk and mother of pearl. That way, a man gives his dung and gets purity. Stay with friends who support you in these. Talk with them about sacred texts and how you are doing and how they are doing, and keep your practices together. Thank you. And now, if there's anything that you would like to ask or share or tell, it would be nice to open it up in this way. Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about the relationship between dhyana, or when a teacher, a spiritual coach is channeling Shakti or light through them to getting to the essence?
It's like that. The energy is there. The spirit is there. It is channeled through the teacher, but it's there. And in fact, what my experience has been, and I've just said it to a friend, it desperately needs us. It desperately needs to incarnate in us because it has something to do in this world, and we have something to do in this world. It's not a kind of airy-fairy business. And so when we are attuned via a process of cleaning these outer spaces, And we can clean it by practicing meditation, or by doing the mantra, or by various other ways. But when we are clearing, it's like Tweedy used to say, we have to clean our courtyard. That's a very good expression. Like we have to clean the lamp, the glass, so that the light of the lamp can shine. Otherwise, the light is there and nothing happens. It's dim. So what I'm saying, that from my experience, the energy is extremely tangible, and it's there, and it's here. And it's just a question of being attuned to it, and then it starts working. When it starts working, all sorts of things happen. And sometimes the process is exhilarated. And so whether we like it or not, we kind of go through a very spring cleaning process. Things have to be cleaned. Because it has to be activated here through our bodies and through the contact with the teacher, the teaching, and the energy. That's all I can say.
This is the meaning of We Are the Path.
Yes. I mean, this is, I feel, it's a very useful image, because it doesn't mean that that's it, and we are just the spirit and the rest can go. I mean, it has to be, this is our skins, and we have to keep them clean. The Sufis say what we have to do is to polish the mirror of our heart. There's this image, I didn't talk about it because there's only so much that one can say. But really the image of the heart is of a mirror. And the mirror can be very dim and rusty, because in the Middle Ages the mirrors were usually made of metal, some sort of metal. So if it's not looked after, it becomes rusty. And if it's rusty, it doesn't function as a mirror. So all this, keeping all these things clean, in whatever sense it may manifest to any one of us, really means to polish the mirror of the heart. Once it's polished, then it reflects these energies. Well, the Sufis say it reflects the higher energies, and we can then work with them and own them, because they're part of us. The outer becomes inner in the process. Someone else?
How do they describe the saying light upon light in reference to the inner organs of the heart?
This is the source of light. That's where the divine light is kept. It's so precious that it has to be really hidden. But at the same time, the lights that are there, needs to communicate, needs to awaken this, because without this nothing happens. Nothing happens.
So can you describe a bit how it works from out and from in?
From in, it works by really more and more becoming attuned to the inner realities, more and more realizing that that is a metaphor, but that behind the metaphor there is a reality. When we say heart, well, oh, my heart is broken, it's real. It's not just a manner of speaking. That I think is important. And then there is space for the lights to start and ascending. And then there is a process. There was a quotation that I read last Saturday, that lights which ascend and lights which descend, and they meet somewhere. And this quotation was particularly powerful and interesting, because the mystic Najmuddin Kubra says that if the lights, the light which ascends, namely the lights of the heart, are strong enough, they'll pull down the descending life. And what the process, the spiritual process, then will take place here, not somewhere. They will take place here. And this is so characteristic of the Sufi tradition. It doesn't happen anywhere else. It happens in us, in our bodies. This is the vessel. That's where everything happens.
It will pull down the descending light?
Yes. It will pull out because there are these lights which crave. I mean, we talk about the longing, and the Sufi says he longs too. There's something which is referred to as the sigh of the beloved. The beloved sighs. The beloved longs for us. I mean, we are so out of tune. I mean, once I had a kind of glimpse of like how obsessed we get with our little problems, which are huge, which we have to cope with them. That's our life. And there's no space. And like you were saying the other day, no one stoops low enough to listen to God. And so the whole understanding of the need of the beloved to manifest in us. Like in the Indian tradition, the Hindu tradition, there is the belief of the avatar. I mean, this man that manifests and helps to push humanity beyond its boundaries. In the Christian tradition, there is one avatar, Jesus. I mean, he is an avatar. I mean, to the Hindu tradition, it's not very difficult to understand the whole Christian mystery. There is one man who took upon himself the sins or whatever of the whole humanity. In the Sufi tradition, it's everyone. It's every one of us. Everyone is an avatar or has the potentiality. But the thing is that it's needed. In one of the dreams that I haven't read because there's a magnificent, powerful image of the 40 men without whom the universe collapses. And we, in our meditation, we actually emit light. We emit. Margaret told me once that she once saw it. She was in meditation and she saw, because we have in London there is a woman who is a real wise old woman. Her name is Margaret, and at times she can be very clairvoyant. And she said that once she saw, I mean, people were meditating and there was this light. It's necessary. You write in your books, the lovers of God are like a network of light. It's real. I mean, it's
Like Sviri used to say, we are like a point when we meditate as a group, we are a point of light in space.
Yeah, and this is real. It's not an image. It's not a metaphor.
You've seen Kirlian photography. This is photographed
Yeah.
marvelously.
That's one manifestation of it. But as the text says, there are many, many more and more subtle. Anyone else?
Could you say anything more about the eyes that can open internally or they can open externally?
Yeah, it's all about seeing. I mean, this is also I can quote Mrs. Tweedy saying, mystics are visionary ones. No, it's about seeing. There is a process of I mean, ultimately, it's about merging in the nothingness. And there's no seeing and no hearing and no nothing. It's just. But in the process, one can see experiences, dreams, and it's also about understanding, clarifying, distilling. And so the image is, and it's more than an image, that this subtle organ has ways, has little doors that can communicate with more inner layers and also with the outer. So there is a communication. This is also the way that a teacher and disciple really communicate. There is a lovely poem by Rumi, I wish I remembered to quote the whole of it, about the process of how the teaching is transferred. I remember only the last bit, which says, because there is a window between a heart and a heart. Yeah. And so this is what it means, there is an opening. It's not, you see, it's like there are little openings, which through them experiences are taken in and can be communicated. What we are doing now is actually the same. I'm saying something aloud, but it's really something else takes over me and is transmitted over. Not through the words, not through the mind necessarily. I mean, really, I've been thinking quite a lot about it. It's not that the mind, like I said, it's not that there is anything wrong with the mind in itself. It is not made for this sort of work. It's made for other purposes, and it's useful. But you can't really grasp it with the mind. And one of the experiences that can be glimpsed is this thing about the inner, how these inner organs are real, not just a metaphor. I kind of repeat myself, but I feel it's very important. You want to?
Yes, when you spoke about the word Naqshband, and when you said first we were trying to use the word hang on to the impression in order for it to be permanent.
Yeah.
And it's like it involved the whole of us really trying to hang on
Consciously.
consciously
Yeah.
to this impression.
Yeah.
So that it's still like the permanence would belong like more the less of the duality. When we are trying to hang on, there's still this duality.
Well, of course.
It and us.
Of course, but the duality is also part of the process. The duality is also part of the process. Because it's so much to do with living, with being, as Tweedy says and quotes Baysab, teachers do not really teach, Sufis do not teach, they are. So this being, this merging, has to go also through process of conscious suffering. That the naqsh is what's given. The naqsh in Arabic and in Persian means the impression. That's given. That's a human birthright. It's there. It's in the heart. There is a print there. The band means the reinforcing, the binding, the commitment, and the polishing of the mirror. That's the pain, the commitment.
So the naqsh is like the yes in the primordial covenant.
Yes, and the band is living it out here. Yes, yeah.